Dun 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 bum bum ba-da-dum. Okay, so as much as you enjoyed that, we're going to talk about our lesson, which is quadratic formula today, and that little tune is going to come in handy here in just a little bit. So I just want to remind you of standard form for quadratic equations, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. Some things that we need to remember is that our equation always needs to equal 0 before we start, so make sure you make a note of that. And then you just need to remember where a, b, and c are. Notice that a is the number in front of x squared, b is going to be the number in front of x, and then c is going to be the number by itself. So we need to keep that in mind for today. All right, so the quadratic formula is going to look complicated. You do have to memorize it, but I promise you, every student I've ever had freaks out the first time they see it. It is not that difficult to memorize, especially with the song, and it's really not that difficult to use. So let's go ahead and see what our quadratic formula looks like. All right, so here we go. Like I said, that looks like a lot. I'm going to tell you where the song comes in handy, and as we go throughout this next week, we're going to talk about what all implications this has, so what all this tells us. The first thing that I do need you to make a note of before I kind of relate this to the song is that this is x equals, which means this whole equation is going to give us roots. It's a way to find roots when factoring doesn't work, but when you need exact answers. Because remember, our calculator, we just kind of estimated decimals, and sometimes you're going to have exact answers. All right, so the last thing that I want you to know is in this equation, b, a, b, and c, all those values, are going to come from standard form. So that's why I wanted to make a point of that before I began. All right, so remember that little tune, that little Pop Goes the Weasel tune? Okay, so let's go ahead and sing our song. Our song is x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so remember, this symbol is called plus or minus. The reason that you have plus or minus is because you're going to have two roots. So you may want to make a note to yourself that this is plus or minus. And we have that because we need two roots. And then square root, obviously you know how to do all of that. And the all over just indicates that this fraction bar is used for the entire equation. All right, the fraction bar isn't just part of the square root, it's for everything. So let's look at a few examples. All right, so I'm actually going to take it easy on you guys. We're just in the beginning, so for this lesson, all we're going to do is practice setting up the quadratic formula. When we come into class on Monday, we will talk about how to work through quadratic formula when you have your calculators, which is a lot easier to do then. So remember, the first thing we have to do is to change this into standard form, and we need it to equal 0. So that means I need to move, all right, you could move the x squared to the right, but if you do that, that's going to give you a negative value. So to me, it's easier to move both of these pieces to the other side, which is going to give me 2x squared. When I move the 8x, it becomes negative 8x. And when I move that negative 7, it becomes positive 7 equals 0. All right, we're going to label our a, b, and c. So I'm going to say a is 2, b is negative 8, and c is 7. Now, I'm not going to rewrite the equation, the quadratic formula, but you should have it in your notes so that you can see where I'm getting this from. All right, the song is, and I will tell you, I can't even set these up without singing the song in my head. Like, it's just an instinct now. All right, so it's x equals negative b. So b is a negative value, which means negative b is negative 8. We'll talk about that on Monday, just kind of see where I'm getting that from. All right, x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared. All right, that's b squared minus 4ac. All right, you see where I'm getting all those numbers from? 4a is 2 and c is 7, all over 2a. Okay, let's try setting up another one. All right, they made this one easy for us. It already equals 0, which means I'm ready to go. So I'm going to label my a, b, and c. Now you may look at this and say, well, what's a? There's not a number out there. Remember, if there's not a number, but I need one, that's a 1. Because I can multiply anything by 1 and it won't change. All right, -6 and -7. So here, let's go again. If you want to pause the video and see if you can do this on your own first, I would do that. All right, x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, one thing I do want you to notice how every time I plug in, I use parentheses. It's very important that you do that, especially for when we start using your calculator on Monday. If you don't use parentheses in your calculator will start giving you wrong answers all over the place. So make sure you write with parentheses. All right, this last one I want you to try on your own. So you're just going to go ahead and set up the formula, x equals. Remember to label your a, b, and c. And then I want you to do your x equals equation and get everything set up where it belongs. All the numbers in the right places.